No, I want a rules crunchy magical girl system.
No!
I don't want this rules light shit. Hello and thanks for tuning in to At the Table. As always, we have our incredible host, CJ.
Hi, I'm CJ.
Jess.
Hello, I'm Jess.
And myself, Sam. This week, our discussion topic is going to be preparation for your session, whatever TTRPG of your fancy it is. We're going to kind of go over the different variances thereon. But this week, or rather since last time we've recorded, what have we been up to, team?
Dragonlance. We have been up to Dragonlance. Like, pretty much exclusively Dragonlance. Not for nothing. And I think we covered this in the last episode. We have found ourselves in a group of people that work so fantastically well together. It's one of the greatest campaigns I've ever played in. It's all I can talk about to anyone who will fucking listen. I'm dropping an F-bomb within the first minute of the podcast.
That's how excited we are about Dragonlance.
But we have all been playing Dragonlance and have been having a wonderful time. And yeah, it really, the last session that we played really affected, I think, all of us.
Oh,
yeah, I was very tempted to change our topic to like session bleed, an emotional bleed after last session.
What if we talked about that?
What if we talked about that? However, I need to do more research on that one before we get to it.
Fair enough.
Understandable.
But yeah, I think we managed to talk to our GM last time, and I think Jordan had so much prepped, and then we just had like a little merry old time in the town. We just
what if we just talked to each other about our feelings and then went into a tent where another one of our players had made a little sleepover area and made a big, nice, lovely speech about how we're a team. What if we just did that instead?
What if we made a shopping episode, which is traditionally one of these slower, more out of character episodes where people just get their bearings? What if we took that and turned it on its fucking head and made it so charged with emotion that 4 out of 5 cast members just cry?
Yeah, I cried.
And yeah, no, I think Dragonlance as a setting, especially because it is a war setting, is highly charged already. Now you can take it a couple of ways. You can take it the very much we're going to come at it swinging route, strategic tactics, all of that, or you go high heavy role play and everybody has a background in it. Everybody's done we are the orphan with no parents, and we are searching for something else, and there's a lot of emotion there that everybody's playing out. We have gone with the latter, obviously, and in the setting, it is fusing us together fast, and it's so good as a setting in particular. I think to pull
trauma bonding.
Yes,
we love it.
Yeah.
But we're pulling it together as that group, and it's really amazing to see how all of the characters in the campaign, from the mayor through to the guards, through to the what we think is the villain, the guy that annoys us, that we kind of want to trip
Our
up.
antagonists.
Yes.
Fuck that guy.
How all of them have been perfectly crafted and I think played very well by our GM to elicit these differing responses. But it's done the job so well. The setting is so well established. I can't wait to play every week. So
yes.
Yeah.
It's delightful, and I've just been so happy and encouraged. Like, one of our players who's arguably done some of the most, I mean, we've all been really like, let's do some emotionally charged, but this player has made some really great big moves, like that speech I described before, said just offhandedly once, like, oh, it's really nice because I've gotten to explore some like characterization and some things I wouldn't have done in other groups. And I was just like, yes. Make
Straight
me
in the
love
vein.
it.
That's a
Guttural.
good shit.
That was guttural. Yes! When you can bring someone else into the foray and find their love of role playing in the way that you play,
It's been
get
great.
it in.
Like
Get it in.
everybody's really just yes, but it was just that one little comment. It was just such an offhanded comment, but to me, I took that and I was like, yes. Yeah!
I've gotten so excited that my activity monitor has just gone off, warning me my heart rate has risen. That's nice. I'm not even playing it. We're just talking about it. But yeah, I would say Dragonlance at this point, as for what, we're like the first act in? I don't know how many acts there are in it.
We've just moved into the second act, I believe. I
Brilliant.
think that when we were, to keep from spoilers, sailing down the water was the end of the first act, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's very interesting because there's a number of different D&D games that I've played where like one or two people will have viewed the setting and the system and then gone, I want to do something slightly on the edge of that. And that's been fine for most of the campaigns. But I think all of us have like identified bits within both the backgrounds presented, the new subclasses, and some of the lore. And we've all gone, actually, this, like, not so much choosing some of the edge bits. We've all chosen bits within the main bulk of the text. And then we're just playing around within the space. And obviously, the text of Dragonlance is there like, well, I've got plenty more to show you. And so we're just playing around with that. And I don't think anyone feels like, I think all of our characters feel very unique and I wouldn't say outsider-ish. I think they all feel like individuals coming into a group.
Yeah.
Agreed,
and I think they have moments of isolation, but I don't think there's like one character that's like Stormy McBroodlord, the rogue with dripping venom daggers going like, God.
Okay, I have a question. So when we all first started playing together, because CJ and I have never met in person. I've never met James, and I haven't met Lucy either. So when we all sort of came together and all introduced our characters and all sort of saw one another really at the table for the first time, did you get the impression that anybody might be Stormy McBroodlord? Who did you think?
James?
Okay, same.
And the best part is, like, just to out him completely at this point, he's the one that's been really making these amazing characterization choices and, like, actively bringing the party together. And
oh, hell yeah.
It's just like, I would have been fine either way, but I'm so pleased with this outcome.
Role-playing with James feels like biting into a bao bun.
Oh, that's a nice way of thinking.
Warm in the middle.
Very, very, very meaty.
Very
filling.
Soft and fluffy like a cloud on the outside.
He keeps seeing all these moments and being like, okay, let's draw on this.
Yes.
But he's not always just going, I'm going to add on to other people's moments. He still has like a drive for his character as an individual, and there have been moments of tension and conflict that he's brought to the table in a way that's nuanced and not in a way of like, oh, I'm mad at you, so I'm going to storm off type of thing.
Right.
It's like, I feel differently to how your character feels, but in order to do this, we've got to move on.
There was at the beginning, sort of first or second session, there we go. An insult was held at an NPC in World, and James's character stepped forward with the staff and like slammed it down and was like, stop. And that immediately to me set James's character as rightful justice, absolute cleric, but also defense and ready to move into action without being encouraged, but also willing to engage with the story entirely.
Yeah. And I mean, I got a little bit like I had a nice even in the beginning, because we had decided our two characters had been traveling together, and so we had they had both sort of warmed up to each other a little, but my character is still pretty cagey. And his character initially was somewhat cagey as well, and we had sort of come to the agreement that they had both just not bothered each other. Like they were just like, it's nice to have someone around, so we're not going to rock the boat. And so we came in, and our two characters knew not much more about each other than any of the other characters knew about each other, except for, of course, your two characters who've been traveling together. So it was kind of a weird, interesting balance of like, we know each other a little bit, but not actually that much. And it was pretty cool.
It's really good that I've noticed both you and James doing is you're cagey enough to as a character affect. You're reserved. There are things we have yet to find out and know about your characters, but at the same time you're presenting delicious little crumbs, and not in a way that's they're like, oh, I need you to do this right now. It's just little morsels. It feels like you're painting the edges of the painting to give us like a bit more framing, a bit more context. And the more we know, the more we can build on. As a good way to like gauge and like say to our interest without it being overwhelming. It's a really fine craft, and both of you are doing it really, really well.
I appreciate that. I once waited an entire year into a real world year.
Wow.
Into a campaign before my co-players found out that I was actually not a fighter but a sorcerer.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So I played a character once. I have a lot of love for this character. It was one of my favorite campaigns I've ever been in, and we were in it for several years. I played a character that fought with finesse weapons poorly, had a rapier. I mean, he did fine, right? He did fine. And he had grown up just ashamed of who he was because he felt he didn't fit the mold. And what was really interesting about that story is that it turned out that he'd sort of internalized a lot of things in ways that weren't necessarily the way they were meant to be received. And so he was putting a lot of that pressure on himself.
Okay.
But so he tried to hide a lot of who he was, especially at the beginning. Okay. And, the first thing that came out that he was, more free to admit or whatever was like, no, I just like guys. And it wasn't a world that had homophobia, but it was a setting where his position in life, his family had expected him to continue the family line.
Okay.
And so it was one of those things where it was kind of like he'd put pressure on himself that wasn't necessarily the pressure that was actually there. He'd internalized and misinterpreted the pressure.
So how was it then that as a character backstory, it was forced into using finesse weapons to make it look like they were a fighter, but were in actual fact using sorcery instead during most of the combat, I guess, during that year?
So,
how was it they were able to not pick up on that, is what I'm wondering.
Mostly did not use any magic at all.
Oh my gosh, you went hard. You went beast mode. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And I had people being like, why haven't you optimized your character? Your fighter sucks. And I was like, yeah, he sure does.
That's dedication. That's such dedication.
I'm sure that's a Naruto meme where like they take off like the weights on their legs and they're like, finally, I can kick at full speed.
And it was sort of like,
that's amazing.
Once or twice I did drop a spell when shit was getting like kind of dicey, and I was like, okay, I can't. My stupid secret can't be the reason we all die. So once or twice I dropped a spell, and people didn't question it. I don't know if they thought that like.
Do you think they were just there like, I'm in it. We just need to survive.
One of it was one of those things was that, but another thing was that like, especially by that time, we had gotten a few magic items.
Okay. So
right,
and maybe that magic item had cast that spell.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I
our
just-
DM would
Tap.
just give us the information about the items and so on. And yeah, that was like the ultimate. I don't think I would ever like. Well, never say never. But like faking an entire class for a year was kind of like the most drip fed story caginess I've ever done.
I'm glad you've
Super
gone for the
spy.
newer technique.
I
I
But also, I guess, so your character was trying their best to hide it as well. Were you
Yeah,
discussing it after or like between sessions with the other players, or was it very much like a no?
one of my fellow players fell off her chair when he cast a spell for the first time in front of them because I had not mentioned it to anyone at all
Incredible.
for a year.
Incredible.
For some reason, I don't know why I did this. By the way,
That's character. That's character development. You created an interesting character that's not just like a puddle of a person. Like some people want to create a character that is super strong and can hit good, and that's it. And they just want to go out and destroy shit. Other people want to create a history and a backstory and play as in depth and down to their roots as humanly possible. And there is no wrong way to role play or have
Right.
fun and play TTRPGs. I
And one of
think
my-
it's so cool that you did that because that's fucking hard.
Speaking
one of my
interest,
goals for him. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say was to get over these things. I have the roots of my character for Dragonlance are incredibly different. I'm not going to give anything away, but like I've set character arc goals for him as well, and things that I want him to get better at and get over or see the value in, or XYZ. And that was it's the same situation for Leon, who was the sea sorcerer ship captain that masqueraded as a rapier fighter for a year.
brilliant.
Well, there we go. Like
There were a lot of layers to that boy. Found out that he was also like not fully human, which was something I didn't even know because I had left part of his backstory up to my GM.
fair.
And
That takes a lot of trust, I think, as well. If you're going to put so much love and dedication, especially into a character that you've gone, no, I know who he is down to what he's hiding from the rest of the party, which is his class. I've put so much into that. DM. Oh, let's cocktail shaker this up. Let's add in another element here that,
I was
that
like-
not even I will know. Ooh, like
Yeah,
that's such a different way of doing it, and I really
mum-
respect that.
passed away when he was younger, and I think we had established there was something going on there that we didn't know about, but like really all I thought and all I knew about was like, oh, she passed away of an illness.
So that's a really nice way
Alexander
to bring it in.
Hamilton style, like Alex got better, but his mother went quick was Leon.
That's a really
and-
nice. Any DM out there looking to do this with their own players, this is an incredible opportunity. Like, because I've never heard of this before. Like, obviously leaving some details up to the DM, but never to this extent, because this is a huge amount of work for one character.
Absolutely.
And so
it was so
concealing
much
a
fun
class, concealing parts of your history from you,
from myself,
and
which
then
was great because
creating
Leon didn't know. You
No,
know?
there you
So
go. It's a level of
why do I need to
discovery.
know? Yeah.
And I guess, was that as rewarding for you as you are making it sound?
Yes. Again, this is, and I'm already, we're like, I don't know how many episodes in, like 6, 8, whatever of our Dragonlance campaign, but I'm already at a point where I'm like, this campaign has the same feeling and rewarding, like, so I'm really jazzed about that. But this was a campaign that was really hard to live up to for, like, not that anyone was living up to it as far as, like, GMs or other players or whatever, but that sort of lightning in a bottle feeling that you get when everything comes together.
That. Sam.
So, yeah, it was
Yes,
rewarding.
Chess.
So, like, this is my first lightning in a bottle campaign, right? Have you ever experienced anything of this level, of this like this sort of cohesiveness that we've really felt with Dragonlance? Have you ever felt, or is this trying to live up to the expectation of another TTRPG that you've played?
I think what's really interesting is that I think we've managed to hit the ground running with a good group, very, very reliable schedule. We've been able to really strong characterization, great optimization in terms of combat. I don't think I've ever played anything that's as well-rounded as this. And I see what you mean, CJ, when like other campaigns that have been really powerful or meaningful, like the first time that I picked up, well, when we were running the Tyranny of Dragons, the Rise of Tiamat campaign as a home game, like the way we were playing like 6-7 hour sessions on Friday nights.
I remember those. Not yours specifically, but the 7 hour Friday night. I was just creeping actually behind you most of the time.
I think those sessions were just really long, and we got the ability to do stuff that's just not afford. Like when you haven't got the time, you can't afford to spend it doing stuff like we were doing. So it felt more. I don't know. It just felt longer. It felt lived in. But I think this Dragonlance stuff is like it's amped up, it's ramped up. But what I was going to say before that is interesting characters, Jess.
Mm.
Imagine, so we've obviously got like, we've got James and CJ's characters who've got like secret backstories that they're giving off crumb by crumb. Mine and your character have such an interesting relationship, and one of the things that I keep repeatedly doing to your character, who has lived a very long life, is my character doesn't believe that your character has lived as long as they have. It's just like a throwaway thing. Like my characters live for like 200 years. Your characters live for like just before the Cataclysm, or just like
just before the Cataclysm. Yeah, but again, this isn't. I wouldn't necessarily say we've ever spoken about specifics, but what I'm really enjoying about our dynamic is that we are improvising a lot of stuff. And if the other person just at any point turns around and is like, "Oh no, I don't remember that," or "You never told me that," then it's a part of their friendship that they actually haven't discussed yet.
I think it's interesting because I think we've established that we've been on the road together for
5 years.
5 years. Thank you.
5
I remember
years.
you remember doing that to me in the camera last week. I was like, we've been traveling together for 5 years.
But it was, it's not...
I don't think there's everything that they would have discussed. I know I promised to send you like a Word document of stuff that we'd have fleshed out, but actually I think improvising it has worked out really well so far.
I think
From a outside perspective, it's working great. Yay! It's so good. I love watching them interact.
I feel with that dynamic, there is so... I think from the first session when we sort of felt a little bit about the backstory of each person, and we heard that as players, and then as characters had to choose how to react to a lot of stuff, and try not to metagame as well. So I know that we had spoken separately, like we've probably spoken about a lot of stuff. Our characters have spoken about a lot of stuff, but we have hidden painful elements. We have hidden the hardest and darkest parts of ourselves, and maybe we haven't shared that. And then, for example, the wake up that you did, and it was a nightmare, and there was a family scene, and there was a lot going on, and I was like, okay, processing this. Mm-hmm. Is this something we would have talked about? Probably not.
Probably not.
And just having to sort of go off of cues like that, and then going, okay, well, 5 years we've been on the road, we've been traveling buddies and companions, we've kept each other alive, we've fought, we've got war stories, yes, absolutely, we've got our own stories together, yes, fantastic, but will you have told me about the time that you lost everything? Will I have told you about something similar? Will and working that as a session by session thing, I think works for this dynamic, and we're good at it. I like it.
Yeah, you guys are really good at it, which helps. I think a lot of people are very flexible with the yes and and that helps a lot in this group.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is that we get to we play quite light characters for the most part, and then when these like I'll not believe when Jess's character says, "Oh yeah, this thing happened like hundreds of years ago," and I was like, not true,
Yeah.
fake. But like it's not
Fake
in like
news.
a mean way. It's just they're just telling stories in the way that like they tell stories, and then like Jess will go for like a whole scene recounting stuff that happened in the past, and it hits hard. And I was just there like, fuck, I'm crying. And then just
But
go on.
Oh, what was
Jordan.
so intense last time? It was
Jordan.
beautiful.
The whoop. So Jordan is
Jordan.
playing this to perfection, because even though
Oh, yeah.
Wall supposedly has all of these memories from 300 years ago, whatever it may be,
Fake.
all of these history checks that I am rolling and failing more often than not, and then being like, oh, I don't remember that. Can you tell me? Like, oh, maybe she hasn't been alive 300 years. Who knows, guys? I'm just saying.
Or maybe just a lot has happened.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot has happened. Maybe a lot has. It's
Maybe you were
Jordan-
born yesterday and you are in fact playing a long con like I did.
Who knows? Who knows who this furbolg might be? She might not even be a furbolg. The ears might be fake. Just to
Right.
spite you all.
3 kobolds and a jacket.
Now that is just one step too far. How dare you lie to me about being a furbolg?
How dare you, Walmart, be a joke character?
And the best part about this is that Walmart has at this point become the furthest thing from a joke character. I mean,
know, right?
I wasn't expecting her to have divulged as much as she has at this point. I just
No, I'm
figured it
so
would be
glad.
if ever she is broken, she'll break hard. But now she broke pretty quickly and with very little pressure, it turns out. She
The
just,
thing
A
is
little
that-
prawn cracker.
just needs
Snap.
someone else to make her cry. That was it.
with Wall, I think in different ways everyone has been gel for this group. Wall has done it by being very sort of including of others and sort of I don't want to say mentory, that's not the right vibe, because
Mother.
but sort of like look like a little mothering, or maybe like a big sister sort of situation.
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
definitely like a good guidance stuff. Like you're never like glomping on top of someone else's thing. You're like, oh, I can help them do a thing. I'm big,
Yeah.
I'm strong, I've lived a long time, I know what to do. Like you just supplement other people's stuff, and it just makes it so much more cohesive.
I think as a player in general, and especially through lockdown and any of the recent TTRPGs I've played, my character has always been a support role. Every time I've been brought in as an NPC or as like a one-shot character, one of my favorites, Biff, a little grung boy who's designed as to help a party on their way, and has
Rip
been
to
brought
Biff.
back in. We love my boy Biff. He's been brought back in multiple campaigns for that exact purpose. I've found I'm quite good at helping and including and bringing people in, like people who are new, people who maybe haven't role played to a depth before, giving them the spotlight for a bit and dragging focus and pulling it round and sort of getting the whole group involved. I've become all right at that. That's one of my strengths as a player.
You are very good at that.
You are very
But
good.
you haven't done that to the detriment of your own character development.
Yeah.
Exactly this. So Wool is the first time I think I'm playing a character that is also big and hefty. And she just wants to help and keep everyone alive, doesn't she? Just. But that's her strength in many a compartment. A compartment?
Yes.
Yeah. fuck it.
So what I was getting at there is that I think every bit we've gotten of Wall has been fully believable based on the way you've characterized her. I don't think it's felt like she broke too early or that anything shoehorned. I think that everyone's done a really good job of giving like just the right amount
Yes.
for each part, and it's
The characters
And
have tracked along with the story. The
Yeah.
reveal, all elements of our past that are coming out, all work with what's happening. So I'm really excited to see the past of the characters that maybe we haven't seen too much of yet, like Valaris's and Aldar's. I'm very excited to see more there. And I think we will. And that, again, this all of the knowing more about the characters is what really gets me all het up and all hyped and ready for tomorrow's session. Our session is tomorrow, Tuesday. It's going to be Tuesday tomorrow, and I'm really excited. It's going to be Tuesday tomorrow.
Can't wait for Tuesday. Other than that, I've been playing Dystopia Rising Evolution on Onyx Path, the Onyx Path on Twitch. It is their post-apocalyptic kind of zombie apocalypse TTRPG. I will talk more about it when we're further in, because we are only one session 0 and one actual episode in at this moment.
Nice.
I don't know what day it is anymore. Tonight is episode 2.
Oh,
Nice.
In the middle of the night, because I'm slightly insane. But it's great. It's really fun. It's very The Last of Us. So it's topical at this point. It's set a little bit later after the apocalypse, whereas like The Last of Us, you're getting your first generation of like teens and kids who've not known what the world was like before. This is about 4 generations after the initial apocalypse.
right.
Zombies still exist. There are also people have mutated. There are different, like, people have mutated slightly to either resist things or have, other ways that their bodies have coped with this. It is, the other way that it reminds me of The Last of Us is it is a fungi instead of a virus or a bacteria.
Oh, cordyceps energy. We stan a mushroom gal. We stan a fungi.
A fungi. And there's also like a few other threats. Like raiders are people who are not zombies, not infected in that way, but their minds have sort of gone, and they are cannibals and really aggressive. So you've got all kinds of like nasty post-apocalyptic dangers, and we are delivering packages.
Oh, nice. So a delivery. Is that the sort of general main
postal
base
service?
Oh, okay. Is it a set adventure or is it homebrew?
Nope.
Oh,
so it's, as I understand, it's pretty much just homebrew. I'm lucky that being able to stream on Onyx Path's Twitch, we get sometimes people who have worked on it because it's their Twitch, it's their IP. And so sometimes we're doing a module, sometimes we're showing off a module that's coming out soon or a new thing that's coming out soon. Sometimes it's sometimes it's homebrew, but we're showing a new expansion or whatever. So this specifically seems to just be homebrew. I think it's mostly based off of the fact that one of our players decided that the group that they want their character to be a part of, because you can choose from different groups, is the Postal Service. Okay. But his goal is to like create a better shipping company. I love this player.
I'm
Very
feeling
goofy.
The Last of Us. I'm feeling the post-apocalyptic version of, I think it was called Just the Postman. I'm also feeling...
Yep.
What was that? What was that Kojima game that came out?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
I'm getting Terry Pratchett's
Death
Going... Oh! I've got
Okay.
Death Stranding mixed with Going Postal by Terry Pratchett is where I'm seeing this at the moment.
I do believe that Death Stranding was actually one of the inspirations.
Makes sense.
Of RGM. So,
very nice.
Yeah, I'm a Sawbones. So I just, yep.
A Sawbones?
A Sawbones.
doctor.
So like a doctor, but like a sort of slapdash, like on the field sort of doctor, as opposed to like.
Is this regular slang that the kids are using, or am I behind?
It's an Americanism. A Sawbones.
A Sawbones?
Yeah.
I've only ever heard of it in TTRPGs. I've heard of it. Sawbones is a class in Onyx Path. and it's also a pursuit in Through the Breach, and so that's how I know about it.
Right. I've literally never heard this phrase before in my entire life, and for a very brief second then I thought you were just trying to tell us that you were feeling pain. I'm sawbones. Like, yeah, so do we. We're old now.
It's mentioned in Hot Fuzz.
Oh, is it?
Hot Fuzz.
It's
all
our
right.
regular sawbones. But I think we tend to say saw as in like, ouch, that hurts. It is sore.
As
but
opposed to
it's phonetically, saw as in
got you.
Sawbones. It's a sawbones. Oh gosh, here we all go. Sawbones. Sawbones.
Regular sawbones. I mean, it's a badass name. I love it. Sawbonesy. Wait.
Sir Bonesy.
Wait, no. Sawbones V. That's what has just been typed into the chat.
Oh yeah, I
the
think
Zencaster thing. You put a V in there as well, and I was like, wait, what?
It's still, the link still works.
Is this the Russian spelling?
Sawbones.
But yes, so I just wanted to give a quick rundown on that.
Nice.
I will ramble about it more once we're a little further in.
What other things have people been playing?
I was going to be playing my 5th edition home game, but we had to delay. But that means I've got more prep time to think of things to do. But again, that is going to be in the prep part. And then I am trying to put together some Lancer stuff. But again, that's going to be in the prep bit.
Hey, Sam.
Yes, there's
an idea. Shall we seamlessly transition to the prep bit?
Let's seamlessly transition.
Seamless transition.
Thank you once again to Bohannon Brigade for giving me some session prep materials so that I can talk about session prep this week. I heartily recommend that you go over to Etsy, type in Bohannon Brigade and check out the shop bundle. It is a big bulk buster load of PDFs that you can get. So that's everything not including the adventure modules, such as the Towers of Scarlet Robes, which I really recommend you check out. So within the shop bundle, that's absolutely everything for about $21 right now. It's the NPC catalog, the D&D Easy DM notes, digital download, the city reference notes, the session notes, the familiar reference card, the NPC cards, the minimalist character sheet, digital download, the spell tracker, digital download, the initiative tracker download, and a DM battle sheet. Can all be yours for the price of $21 or about £22 sterling. Yes, we go in and talk about this a bit later, and I will talk about it at the end of the show. It's kind of like a round-off, but thank you once again to Bohannon Brigade. I recommend that you hop off to Etsy, check them out, and see what other amazing things that they have in store. Thank you very much. So, for our discussion topic, I wanted to talk about TTRPG session preparation. I alluded to it in our ad section for last episode because it's something that I thought would be rather relevant, and we will bring in what our ad was because I find that product very useful. I will start off because I have some thoughts.
Ooh, dangerous.
I know, dangerous, unstable, and volatile. I think there is fundamentally 3 different ways that session prep happens. And I'm going to say it, the standard of the like high fantasy, rules crunchy TTRPGs, and I'm also including like Starfinder in this. Starfinder, Pathfinder, and D&D can be some of the hardest, most difficult things to prep for.
Here.
Because of because I think because of the pure variety of stuff that's out there, and there's always a better way of doing this and a better way of doing that. And then one of the things I struggled with was that I started from very little session prep, and I was really struggling to get that done when I was running. Full disclosure, so I was running Tyranny of Dragons back when I was living at home with my parents, and I was working away a lot, and I basically read the chapter ahead that we were going to do, and then I ran it that week, and like I got burnt out, and so we had to switch GMs midway through that campaign.
Oh, shit.
So I GM'd the first half, and Chris GM'd the second half. Now Chris is much better at picking up that module and running it than I was. And I'm so glad that he just picked it up and ran, because I was so absolutist about the text that I was tying myself in knots actually getting it done. However, he just saw the text as guidelines and just generally went through that. I had the best and the easiest session prep I've ever done is for Monster of the Week, which is by design meant to be prepped. Like I've watched so much stuff, and the lead writer was saying if you spent more than half an hour on session prep, you've prepped too much. And
I
was like,
appreciate when they can set, be like, look, that's not this type of game. You shouldn't have to worry this much about it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I would, as a writer full time, we create plans for the scripts that we write. The plans are never more than 500 words, and that is for a script of 4,000 to 8,000 words. If a plan is over 5,000, if a plan is over 500 words, we send it back and say cut it down, because what you will end up doing is relying so heavily on that plan and going back to it so much and so rigidly, you will not allow any of the really good ideas that come to you in the moment to actually flourish on the page, and it's the same.
And that's what I do for prep. Except for me, I do mostly bullet points.
Yes, same.
If I've got to remember some details, then we've got a few sentences here or there, and otherwise it is everything is bullet pointed.
Yes.
That's how I prep.
Same. I keep everything in a Word doc, any notes, any major changes. Namely, I use shorthand to sort of figure stuff out, character arcs and whatnot. But I find Word really helpful because you have the find function, and that way, whenever someone in game goes, is NPC Blair here? And I go, I've got no fucking idea who that is. Quick, control find. Yes, they would be here, of course. Why wouldn't I remember that from 19 sessions ago?
Yes.
And here they are selling some
bullshit.
Part.
The worst part is remembering to take really quick shorthand notes when you're coming up with things just off the cuff, because otherwise you've got like, is Seraphis still there? Sorry, who?
Yeah.
Entirely.
I got really so recently, whilst I was rebuilding a lot of my 5e stuff for my home group, someone recommended that I do OneNote, and OneNote is a fantastic tool. It can be really useful, and I've seen some amazing GMs do amazing things with it. It's too expansive for me. I will be endlessly over designing in OneNote for days and days and days, and have done very minimal prep.
So what is OneNote?
So OneNote is a Microsoft product that basically it's just individual pages, and then you can organize them in stacks and stuff. It's probably better to think of it as like an actual lever arch folder, and you've just got those dividers, and then you can put pages and pages in. However, you can obviously put images, you can put text, you can do this, but they're all designable, so you can like change the size of this and put this image here and put a link in here, and they can all link to each other. So if you click on this NPC's name, it will go through to their NPC page. If you wanted to, it's the back end of what World Anvil does, which is much better at linking all that stuff and taking away a lot of the heavy lifting. However, when I get to grips with a system like that, my brain looks for the optimum way to organize this, and I over-organize the system rather than do the session prep.
You are very detail-oriented in that regard, is something I've noticed. And, like, you strike me as someone who, when running a campaign, is really afraid they're going to miss something out.
Yep.
That it's a hurdle. It's such a huge hurdle to overcome, but I feel you. Massively feel you. But
I was a lot more like that when I first started DMing, and it was only getting myself out of that increased the longevity of my ability to DM. So, because I would just get so lost in the weeds, you know?
Yeah, and all the minutiae of every element of every character, and making sure everything goes perfectly and smoothly for you, but then you've got all of these notes and so much information to try and figure out how to tie together, making sure there's no loose ends. Can't have that. Hated it. Oh.
You know what I found? The more time I put into prep, I found I was more disappointed in the sessions and where we got to. And I, at a point, and I'm, you know, I'll admit this, I actually started to resent my players because they weren't investing into the plot and stuff that I had spent maybe 10 hours that week, maybe like more. And it's not their fault. They're just playing at the surface level that's presented. They don't know that I've done 10 hours of prep getting this series of images and making sure the text line up and making sure that all these clues are... They don't fucking care. Like, they love playing the game, but they're not going to be there like, hang on, was this elvish script on the front of this graveyard? There are no elves in this kingdom. So, like...
I will tell you where my moment of realization came in. It was more of a moment of reaffirmation of what I kind of already knew, but I had gotten back into old habits. And the first few sessions, for quite a few sessions actually in this campaign I was DMing, I was doing not 10 hours, but you know, upward of 4 hours of prep a week, you know, for sessions, things like that. Really like just trying to put everything out. And then one time I just didn't have the time and it caught up on me and I had to wing it. And everyone had just as much fun. And I went,
yeah,
fuck.
Yeah.
There's more than one way to game the system. Oh no.
Yeah.
I think it takes that moment, that click. I feel like everybody who goes in the first time, if they are really invested in making it the optimum experience for their players, they try and make it as perfect as possible. And then they realize not too long after that they have the capacity to be able to just on the fly go, yeah, sure, that thing exists in the space that you believe it does now. Yeah, let's call back to this. Absolutely. Maybe somebody did leave their sigil here. Symbol, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And sometimes flying it off the cuff and allowing the players themselves to come up with the story is way more fun than having it carved out session by session, hour by hour, to make sure all of the little bits line up and all of the loose ends are tied up and to make sure it's completely fulfilling. None of that nonsense.
Do you believe that the understanding of the game, the mechanics and the setting, if you get to a point where you understand them fundamentally enough, you understand that point you can then improv from there, and you know how well the rules work, so you know where to break them, that it works just as well?
I'd argue both yes and no. I'd say yes, absolutely. Knowing how everything works in the world will make it way easier for you to be able to break it and then fix it and then break it again and fix it again in maybe a more story cohesive pattern that aligns to what you have in mind. I'd also say no, because I have no fucking idea about any of the rules. I hate rules. I think rules are dumb. I like it when you roll a dice and add up numbers and then I get to go, cool, you beat the guy to death because I want you to. Sure. I so much more prefer that.
But you understand the rules of the table, not the rules of the game. You understand that someone wants to roll the dice, make a big thing happen, and you've elaborated the story for the point that I understand what needs to happen now. The big person needs to die at this point in the story. So you can break the rules as written to achieve the story as desired. I think you do understand.
The story is desired, yes. The rules as written. Again, no idea. No idea how anything works. Grappling? What the fuck is grappling?
No one's ever grappled.
Nobody's
Don't
ever
worry.
grappled anyone.
Is it opposed strength? Anyway.
I thought it was opposed to... I don't even know. A great example, Jeremiah, played by Nacho in the Questing Time Moonlighters campaign. Jeremiah was a fighter who really hated using his battle axe and loved just punching things with his fists. Now, Jeremiah is a sweet angel baby. I love him dearly. Jeremiah was never going to... He was up against a lot of guards at one point in time, and he was never going to kill them all. ever
By punching them with
punching
fists.
them to death.
As
It's
a
doing-
jelly person.
Oh, he was doing 1d4
Your
of
strength
damage.
modifier plus your
Every time, 1d4 of damage every time, plus the strength mod. I broke the game and made him become a big ice person, so that he was stabbing with effectively what were knives on the ends of his hands. And I don't know how that was meant to work. It wasn't meant to work. It was never designed to work. It was designed to be fun. And I could have never prepped for that. There was a point during Moonlighters where I was trying to prep for every eventuality, and then I realized very quickly that if I continued to do that, I would burn myself out, and also nobody would have any fun, because I would be the main one talking about nonsense. I wanted my players to play the game. I wanted them to interact with the stuff, and I wanted them to go and find stuff out. I wasn't expecting anybody to set up a stall selling smut soup and blood. Where would that come in? I wasn't expecting anyone to try and sell smut soup and blood, and that's exactly what you all did.
But I think I noticed that because you had such a rich amount of lore, and there was a large amount of the world that we were exploring. And then I noticed whatever we were doing, a couple of sessions after that, whatever we were doing was the correct thing.
Yeah. That's the best way to DM, in my opinion.
Yes.
You are correct.
It's like, if you just like, oh, they didn't. I ran into that. Now, this is at this point years ago, like upward of a decade. But I ran into where I would get stuck because it was like, oh, everyone didn't pick the way they were supposed to, and no, that's not how it works. And that was when a few years after that, I started my Ask blog that I ran for many years, a D&D Ask blog on Tumblr for many years. And one of the things I would say often was like, yeah, okay, if you go in and you play or plan a lot of things, or you're really excited, you've really fleshed out this whole store or whatever that you're really excited about, and your players walk right past it, put it in another town later.
Yep.
Nobody will ever know.
Bring it back. Just, you get to make the story. You put it back in.
It's so flexible, and where we back ourselves into corners as DMs is when we treat it as if it's inflexible. I think
DMs build their campaigns as a series of hinge points, where it's, if they don't do this thing, they miss out the story. You've built the campaign wrong.
Yeah.
People would love
100%.
to. I would love to say there's no way to build a campaign wrong. There absolutely is. It's the one that doesn't accommodate the players. It's the one that you've made very, very rigidly Tomb of Annihilation style, and then throw your players through with walls on either side. They can only go forward. There's no going back, and then eventually at the end they die and resent you.
Yep.
I
mean,
some parties might enjoy that. I don't know.
Right. You just have that discussion very explicitly at the beginning,
Absolutely.
I guess. But generally speaking, I have one of my worst experiences with a DM. And I say worst because it could have been so good. Like, sometimes you have a campaign that was just all right, like all the way around. We weren't that invested. Somebody was a rules lawyer, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But this is easily one of the worst experiences because everyone, including the DM, was so invested in the story. The characterization was there. It could have been something beautiful. But the DM was so hung up on hitting the necessary story points and getting to a certain point each time. I've planned for the session to end here, so you guys can't roleplay too much this time. You can't interact too much this time because we need to get to this story point that I've written out. And it was miserable.
Yeah.
It was even more miserable when everyone was complaining to me about it, and I tried to, as nicely as possible, ask the DM if they, wanted to bounce anything off me, and that some people were frustrated they didn't get to, interact as characters. And I got thrown under the bus and told that I was being a jerk, and nobody came out and said that they had all been complaining about it behind their back, and I got ousted from the group.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I mean, well, that's one way to exit a shit game.
Yeah,
So they could
but
continue all being miserable together. Lovely.
and it was terrible because like obviously I didn't have I was frustrated at times, but I don't think I was the most upset about it. At least judging by everyone who was coming to me and being upset that they didn't have a chance to characterize it, But this I'm slightly off topic here, just to say that that was dumb and communication is important and you should also be able to receive constructive criticism.
Absolutely.
But the point there being, because it really was an amazing story, she had created a really amazing story that probably would be a great novel because that's what was happening. We were listening to her novel.
I've seen novel problem before. Yes.
Yeah, but it's so sad because D&D at its element is collaborative, and if she had let us into that story and dropped the reins just a little, that could have been just mind blowing. Like
Yeah.
that could have easily been one of the best campaigns any of us will have ever been in, and that's just not how it turned out. So,
I wonder if she was
you shoot yourself in the foot.
I wonder if she was so trying to create a campaign similar to a pre-written or a prefabricated version and have it so that it's got these set points that you all have to hit, but with so little flexibility that it's actually ruined it instead of letting you.
She was a new player, or sorry, a new DM, and originally she had been like, "Hey, I really want your feedback," and I hadn't given much because at first, like the first year, 6 or 7 episodes, sessions, whatever, it wasn't bad, and I didn't want to overwhelm her by like, "Have you tried this? Have you thought?" Because it was going pretty well, but it just got progressively worse the more into the narrative part she got, the less she let her players do anything.
Yeah.
And at that point, she had seemed to have changed her mind about wanting my help or feedback. But I was being put up to it by all of the other players who then pretended like they hadn't said anything to me about it. That was rough.
I have a term that I use for DMs that tend to do that, and that really enjoy steering and not giving the players any narrative structure themselves, and they're dollhouse DMs in my book. And it is, you are all pieces in my house. And I will move you where you need to be. You interact here very limitedly and then next room. But now you're here and now you're here. You can't do that.
I'll show you this element that I've planned. I'll show you this room I've built.
Yes, it's exactly this. I will describe to you the thing that is happening to you around you, but you don't actually get to do anything within that sphere. You don't get to impact the shape of the building. You don't get to go and see the gardens or imagine anything beyond that. You get to sit in the house and drink your tea and shut the fuck up.
and that's what it felt like. And I would say that I'm such a tit about this because I'm so adamant, but I really do just believe that D&D is a collaborative game.
Yes.
And there are other things you can do if you want a less collaborative experience. You don't need to drag 4 to 6 people along while you write your novel. Just write your novel and then ask them if they'll read it.
There was something that Brannon Lee Mulligan said in an interview a while ago, and I can't remember who it was with. I want to say it was Abria. He was sort of explaining how being a DM works. He's like, imagine like your players are a ball at the top of a hill. And it's your job to get down to the bottom of the hill. That's your job, is to get them down to the bottom. Now, that's not to say it has to be a straight line, but you can curve the pathway any way you want for this ball to go down. And the way the ball acts will determine which pathway you take. Like, it feeds back. But you have to realize that this has to wind and it has to go a different way. It can't just... you can go straight down if you want it to be over quick, fine.
Right, but usually that's not the goal.
Yeah, you want to create a pathway that's both beautiful to look at and for the players to move down. It's a bit of both.
And I think oh, sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say, to wrap like that whole thought in a pretty little package, I think some of the times that we've all run into the most difficult situations, either as a GM or DM or with other people DMing, is when you yourself or that DM has become so rigid and so over focused on prep that they've forgotten to enjoy the experience.
Yes. Oh, it.
And to that point, like, I've been there. I've been the Dollhouse GM because I've been staring at the module. I've been doing all the session prep. I've been being upset that people whose backstories said they should have done this and they did something else. Well, that I couldn't have planned that. You've just got to allow yourself to share the ball down the hill.
And
yeah,
everyone can improvise. I think it scares so many people as a concept that you don't have the notes to rely on or a description to go to. And you have to reach into the back of your head and go, okay, what does this thing look like? What would be here? What would be... Make it up, pretend, because whatever you say, you can always go, oh, I actually meant that. You can correct. You can go back and change things, or you can ask for clarification on bits. Or you can, at the end of a session, go, oh, when I said this, I actually meant that, thinking about it now. Or future, nothing is set in stone, I think, is for prep what people also need to keep in mind.
I can't remember who said this to me, but especially for improv stuff, someone said to me, what happens next in this movie?
Yes.
Like, if you imagine your table as like a movie, then you can curate, what does it look like? I'm like, the camera pans here and there are stalagmites here and it drips down. What happens next? Well, obviously we're in a cave, so the cave, the ceiling falls in. So like you can just allow your brain to predictive AI generate whatever happens next, and it's fine. Like, ultimately, no one's going to go home and go, well, it wasn't really realistic. Obviously, that's a granite.
I can't believe the cave fell in. That was BS.
It was a granite. It's a granite deposition, and obviously that stone's just very stable. Sandstone, I would have believed.
God.
If your players...
I can't believe we just went there.
Aren't comfortable going to you for clarification on something like, oh, you said this, but in my notes it says this. And if you can't deal with that, I don't think you should be DMing.
Yeah.
Or it's not if your players aren't comfortable going to you, if you're not able to address that, and if you're not able to go, oh yeah, no, absolutely, and see it as not the big deal that it isn't, like it's a non sequitur, it's just nothing as far as issues go within TTRPGs, then you need to develop skills that would allow you to, on the fly, and also just being able to take on board other people's viewpoints, and empathize a little bit more with your players as well, and go, okay, actually, let's change this.
Because as a DM, you are in a position of power.
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously it's not a position of power with capital letters, but in the game space, it is a position of power. You're guiding the story, and you should be the first point of contact if there's ever a situation where your player doesn't feel comfortable about something, or if your player doesn't feel comfortable with something someone else is doing and they don't feel like they can talk to them. Ideally, they can talk to them, and that's, in an ideal world. But if they need help figuring out what to do, they're probably going to come to their GM. And if their GM is the sort of person that shuts something down, it's not going to create a good table space.
Exactly. For campaigns I've written and for campaigns I've played, depending on how people tend to go about a storyline or anything else, because there is nothing to stop players from just throwing the entire story out of the window and going off to look in the woods for mushrooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And always keeping that in like the back of my head. The big bad at the end is never one thing in my head. It is a multitude of 5 things. And they are very loose themes at the beginning of anything. They might have a shape, but more often than not, they're a feeling or they are an emotion. In Moonlighters, it was originally the big bad was going to be the thing that was stealing the memories. And then it became quite clear that people weren't really interested in that. So we changed it. And we made it so that it was a little bit closer to home. And then eventually it was someone's ex-wife that ended up being the big bad. But the more I poked you guys and the more I figured out what would elicit a response, the more I was able to tailor a big bad at the end of the campaign that actually elicited a genuine response that you guys wanted to fight her. God, Jeremiah ripped out the neck of the guy that had been on your boat for fucking it. You were straight up, just didn't even think about it, just ripped his head off. That sort of response is what I'm trying to lead up to in any campaign whenever I am prepping for something. And so I might have at the beginning in some notes like, this is what I imagine the big bad will be. It will be something taking things. We never got to that part of the story at all. Realistically, there were lots of breadcrumbs dropped, but nobody rolled right to put that together. So it was like, cool, okay. What else have we got in the trunk? Something else, another fear, another part of the backstory, another part of the history.
Another fear, an ex-wife.
An ex-wife, boom! Big bad. And the more that was fed into the campaign, the more I could pluck out, the more I could then tease out. And it's that teasing element that then feeds into a better campaign, in my opinion. That's how I love to build.
You can't do that if your players aren't giving you anything to work with. But when your players give you something to work with, and then you take that and you work with it, there's nothing more rewarding for like anyone in that space.
Absolutely.
I know it can, but I've never seen it go wrong. It can, and if it does, you just gotta negotiate that, because, but so far, I've never seen someone's backstory or big fear or whatever be worked in a way where someone went, oh, actually. Yeah. But it does happen. It does, and that's when you have to, have those graces to be okay with that. But usually, it's very rewarding.
Aha. Go on.
If we were going to cohese our thoughts about session prep.
Yes.
I was going to say... My thoughts are, you have to know your whole arc, because as you say, it doesn't matter if they go to the wrong town, the villain in the red cape appears in the town that they're going to go to, right? So know the whole arc so you can shift stuff about. And I think my other one is understand how, and I know this is going to be very nebulous for everyone, understand what's the best way for you to prep and do that. So, as I've alluded to before, the prep that I do through Bohannon Brigade, they're little PDFs where I can it gives me little prompts. What's the thing that needs to be done here? What's the thing that happened last time? Just giving me that so I can not, design 100 images for a thing. All of the sessions where I've done that on have gone much better than the ones that I've over-designed a dwarven, multi-tier dungeon that they didn't look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. My cohesive thought is keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
Mine is flexibility is key.
Realistically, agreed. I just thought I'd be a smartass.
I think that is a good cohesive roundup of all of our thoughts and feelings on the session prep topic. Are there any resources that people would suggest for their particular style of prepping that have helped them? As I have said, Microsoft Word is my go-to, mainly because I'm a cheap bitch and I enjoy using the same thing over and over and over and over and over.
Google Docs.
Google Docs. Microsoft Word. Sam?
For me, it's Google Docs. I've used my same way of capturing my thoughts and processes, and Google Docs is available everywhere. So I'm just able to throw in the idea of the thing I need to do, and I've got access to it everywhere. So that means I can call on it and go, yep, it's just in the Google Doc.
I really like visuals, so I save a lot of pictures on Pinterest boards.
Very good.
That's nice.
Yeah, Google Docs and the and the papers that Burhan Brigade provide for you at Etsy.com. Link is available in the description.
Woo.
Yeah,
We like a nice streamlined prep.
absolutely.
Nice and easy.
Nice and easy.
Nice and easy.
Perfect. Okay. CJ, where can we find more of your work?
Yes. Hi. I'm known on the internet as CJ Starry. You can find me on all of social media under that, including Twitch, or you can find me where I play TTRPs at present. That is Ink and Lyre, Lyre, on Twitch, and also the Onyx Path. So that's Onyx Path's Twitch as well. That's it for now. Other things in the works, and can't wait for the next episode.
Jess.
Oh,
Where can we
wait,
find
okay, that
your
was it.
works?
Sorry.
Yeah.
You can find more of my nonsensical ramblings on Twitter at Dr. Bees. Or the full Doctor, the full Bees. Together, no hyphen. Generally, all you'll find on there is terrible jokes and hilarious takes and pictures of me, because that's where my self-worth comes from these days. With regards to TTRPG stuff, I'm not currently in anything. However, my partner, Paul Foxcroft, the immense Paul Foxcroft, the amazing Paul Foxcroft, is the owner-runner of Questing Time. Questing Time will be back soon. We have just finished the last Moonlighters campaign. We are currently tossing up between 2 and or 3 separate campaigns, including but not limited to Wrath and Glory, the 40k playthrough, Vampire the Masquerade, ooh la la, and finally City of Mist. So there's a lot to be played around with there. Also, I highly recommend checking Questing Time out on Twitter and Instagram, because huge things are coming soon from them, and it would be really cool if you wanted tickets to stuff in the future. I'm not even hyping it up like a lot. Like, it's just a big thing that's going to be very cool soon. Go over to Questing Time on Twitter, Questing Time Comedy on Instagram, and you'll be one of the first to know when that stuff drops. Yeah, it's exciting. It's a big time. And Paul's fantastic and amazing. And yeah, I'm a big old simp for him. Great stuff.
That's fair.
Oof.
I mean,
excellent times. Sam, where can we find more of your stuff?
You're already listening to At the Table. We're already here. So presumably, unless you've just immaculately found this podcast, in which case, hi. Where I'm on Project Headphones on nearly everything. I'm trying out a few different social media because Twitter is very interesting and exciting because I haven't been on it for years. So I'm just collating like nice people who are nice, but I'm slowly finding the nasty bits again. So I'm going to play around with just social media that works. So if you put Project Headphones in places and it comes up with the little headphone symbol inside a piece of paper, that is me. So there you go. Yes, so you can find me there, or you can email sam@projectheadphones.com. I might do either some bonus episodes or some Twitch streams looking at like my exact session prep if you wanted specifics. I know we went here for like round vibes and like stuff like that, so I would be prepping D&D 5th edition and Lancer. So yes, I might pop that on because I've heard a few people asking how I'm doing stuff on Foundry, so I may do that.
That's a good idea.
Yes,
for the visual learners amongst us, that's actually a really nice idea.
You get to see stuff, maybe not my face, but stuff.
Stuff that exists in the sphere.
What accent that was.
Oh, it wasn't an accent, sweetheart.
What was the nope, I've lost it. Several episodes ago we had Papa's
Papa's hot manga shelf or something.
Yeah, what
Papa's
was
forbidden manga shelf.
That was it, Papa's forbidden manga.
No. This is where the magical girl TTRPG will live. Up there.
I can't have our publishing line be Papa's forbidden manga shelf.
But what if it was?
But what if it was? We've not let it die. It's still here. It's still persevering.
I can't wait to make the 3-page mechanics Papa's forbidden TTRPG.
Well, stay glued to your social media, folks. Thank you
joke
ever
is
so much
coming
for
next
listening
April
in.
1st.
Oh, God. Thank you ever so much for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Take care. Bye. Fuck the Tories.
Bye.
Bye.
Fuck the Tories. Thank you for listening to our show. At the Table has been a Project Headphones production. You can see more of our work over at projectheadphones.com. To support this show, please head over to patreon.com/atthetablepod. To get in contact with the show, please email atthetablepod@projectheadphones.com, or if you want to speak to me, email sam@projectheadphones.com. Please remember to rate, review, and share amongst your friends. It's the best way we can get the show out there and do bigger things. So next episode will be episode 10, which is wild to think, considering we've done this every 2 weeks for a while, especially over Christmas and New Year's and everything. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening in and getting engaged in a new project where I've managed to work with some amazingly very talented people and speak to people beyond who I thought would be possible to talk to. So it's been a fantastic journey. We may change up a couple of things. We're not quite sure yet. With CJJS and I will have a tete-a-tete and organise some stuff. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's really appreciated for you coming along on our journey with us. Thank you and roll well.